Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are continuing to talk about the NBA draft. I've talked about 8 of the first 9 picks. I'm waiting to talk about the Warriors until the news about Klay Thompson's injury comes out. And now we're on to the team with the 10th pick, the Phoenix Suns. Don't really like what they did with this pick, and as I don't love the draft of Jalen Smith, I think that they probably could have done a lot better here. I would have liked it much better had they taken someone like Tyrese Halliburton or Devin Vassell. But yeah. Jalen Smith, I had a second round grade on him. I thought he was a second round caliber player. I didn't think he would go in the second round. I had him 24th in my mock draft, but I think this is an insane overdraft. But before we talk about this too much more, I want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. Been appreciating all the support you've been giving me on my channel lately, and I hope to see that continue. Without further ado, let's get back to the Suns. Jalen Smith, not the move. Not a fan of this pick for the Suns. He's a big man, can shoot the ball from the three-point line, adds some offensive versatility in that way, as obviously stretch fives are always super valuable. The Suns made Aaron Baines a valuable player by teaching him how to shoot threes, so that just shows you how important having stretch fives is in the NBA. On defense, Jalen Smith profiles as a rim protector who probably is going to be best in a drop coverage scheme, and he can't really do all that much else. So, offense can't do much but shoot. Defense can't do much but protect the rim. He's really bad laterally, can't keep anyone in front of him, will only be able to guard fives at the NBA level. On offense, he's not getting past anyone. He's not a good passer. Really not a lot of value here at the 10th pick. I think there's probably 10 to 15 different guys at least that I would have rather seen the Suns draft than Jalen Smith. I think that this was a gross overdraft and a really, really bad pick by the Suns. The worst pick of the entire draft, in my opinion. I'm really not a fan. I actually give the Suns like an F if I were to be grading this. Because, I mean, even worst case scenario, you could have traded down and gotten another asset for this guy. Sounds like the Pelicans liked him. Maybe you could have gotten 13 and 24, and they would have traded up to take him. I mean, and then you get 2 first-round picks. There's definitely been rumors that the Pelicans like somebody. It sounded like they were wanting to move into the top 10 in a Drew Holiday deal prior to the Bucks giving up the whole kit and caboodle for him. But the Pelicans are rumored to be a fan of somebody, and they wanted to move up into the top 10. So you could have at least called them and been interested in getting those 2 first-round picks. You probably could have taken Jalen Smith still at 13, maybe even still at 24. So yeah, not a fan of this move. Not a good pick for the Suns. As John Hollinger, a guy that I really love reading about, writes at The Athletic, put so eloquently, using a lottery pick on a backup player at the league's least important position seems like a really smart idea. That isn't a direct quote. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what he said. And it was very sarcastic. This pick makes no sense to me. I think that there's so many other options they could have gone in. They could have addressed the backup point guard spot by drafting a guy like Kira Lewis. Or Tyrese Halliburton. They could have addressed their need for another wing by taking Devin Vassell or Sadiq Bey or Aaron Nesmith. There's many ways that this could have gone, and I think that Jalen Smith might just be the single worst of them. Talking about this team moving forward, you've got Chris Paul and Devin Booker in the backcourt. Right now, the backups you have under contract are Elie Okobo, who hasn't shown much and has a non-guaranteed contract that may not get picked up, and Cameron Payne, who actually played pretty solid as a backup point guard for them in the bubble. I think they might pick up that non-guaranteed contract and keep him around to be their backup point guard moving forward, maybe even their third point guard, depending on how Javon Carter's restricted free agency goes. More on that a bit later. On the wings, they have Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson and Abdel Nader, who are 2 young players that are pretty fun. Mikal Bridges profiles as a great defensive player, and if he can make improvements in his three-point shooting, there's a chance that he becomes like a Robert Covington level impact of role player. Like, This guy has potential to become the best role player in the entire NBA, and that's a top 45 type player in the league. So if Mikal Bridges continues to develop as a shooter due to his defensive acumen, there's a chance that this guy ends up being really solid for them and a perfect fit between Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Cameron Johnson's a bit the opposite end of the spectrum. He can really shoot it, but he can't do much else. He's a competent defender and is probably right around league average there, but on offense, his creation abilities aren't perfect, but he does have some. I think that his ceiling is probably something like Bogdanovich, but a bit bigger and a different position. So that's not a bad player whatsoever. He's still pretty young. He still has some room to grow. He came in as pretty much a finished piece, but if he can continue to add some dribble moves to his game that will make him more effective as a shot creator and ball handler, there's some real potential with this guy. And obviously, floor spacing is super valuable, and he gives that to you as well as anyone else in the league in terms of young players. So, really solid group of young wings here. There's just not much depth, so I think that adding another wing in free agency could be a nice move for them. At the big man spots, they have Frank Kaminsky and Czech Diallo on team options that I think they're likely to decline in order to free up as much cap room as possible. They have DeAndre Ayton, who is one of the better young big men in the league. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of glossing over guys like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, but we really know what they bring to the table. I don't have to talk about them too much. You know that those three guys are going to be the best players on this team, and they are the reason why people are viewing this team as a potential top 6 seed in the Western Conference. Jalen Smith is probably the backup big guy to DeAndre Ayton, and unless they want to play Cameron Johnson at the power forward position, they're probably going to have to find an answer there. I don't think it's Jalen Smith. That's for certain. He's not good enough laterally to guard fours. Fours play on the perimeter all the time in the NBA now, and I don't really think Jalen Smith can guard on the perimeter. So, backup center. There you go. Another little shot for me at James Jones, but we have seen that at least he's consistent. He takes guys that are valued way lower in the draft than the spot where he drafts them and does not care. And he kind of has a type, guys that are good shooters and are kind of stiff outside of that. So don't love it, but back to the team as a whole, they do need to address the power forward, and I think that's probably the biggest emphasis for them heading into this free agency period. I think Dario Saric might be the best option for them as the guy that they already have on a restricted qualifying offer, and they really fell back in love with him apparently in the bubble as he played pretty well for them as a big guy coming off the bench. So they'll be able to bring him in to be kind of a third big guy for them, back up for either Cam Johnson at the 4 and also DeAndre Ayton at the 5, as he can play some small ball 5 and also profiles pretty well at the stretch 4 and stretch 5 positions. So I do think Saric is probably the first point of emphasis for them. After that, bringing back Javon Carter is important because I think that he is a perfect fit for them with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. He can handle the ball as a backup point guard, but he also doesn't need the ball in his hands in order to function. He can be a nice spot-up shooter for you, and he's also a solid playmaker and ball handler when he does have the ball in his hands. So I think keeping him around, hopefully for a pretty inexpensive deal, and hopefully a multiple-year deal, could be really nice for the Suns. I would definitely be in favor of like a 2-year, $10 million contract for Javon to continue playing his role as a 3-and-D point guard for the Phoenix Suns. After that, you start thinking about guys that they could bring in on the minimum to fill out roster spots and potentially be valuable rotation pieces in the playoffs. I'm not sure if Garrett Temple's option got picked up by the Nets or not. I probably should know that, but I'm sorry, bad YouTuber, I don't know. If he didn't get picked up, he could be a really nice option for the Suns as a player who's similar to Javon Carter, but is also supposed to be a really good veteran in the locker room. Everybody loves Garrett Temple. He's worked super hard to get to the spot that he's at. He can space the floor for you and play good defense, so he'd be a player I would look at on the minimum. Pat Connaughton is another guy that I would certainly consider as an elite athlete who is decent on the defensive end, doesn't have much value on offense outside of being a great dunker, but if he can continue to improve his three-point marksmanship, then you're getting a solid wing who can be an athletic 3-and-D type guy. The last one I would want to think about would be Jeff Green. I think bringing him on to be a third big man would be a really nice idea for a lot of teams, and the Suns are not an exception to that. Jeff Green would be a guy I would certainly consider. If you can get him for less than $5 million per year, I think that would be perfect, and he would work really nicely with this team as a backup big guy who can play the stretch 5 and a small ball type 5 when he needs to, and can also play at the 4 alongside DeAndre Ayton and give you good minutes where he can space the floor and shoot threes while also being pretty good on defense too. A 3-and-D big man, basically. I think that the draft pick of Jalen Smith probably means that they move on from Aaron Baines, as they don't need backup center as badly anymore, and Baines is possibly going to receive a good payday, and I really don't think you should give him a good payday. I don't think he's worth more than the minimum, so to see teams thinking about giving him the mid-level drives me a little bananas. So yeah, if I'm the Suns, I think I'm okay with letting him walk, but I'm really focusing on bringing back Dario Saric and Javon Carter for this upcoming season. When it comes to this team, I don't see them as a team that can be in the top 6 in the West. I think that a 7 or 8 seed is the best case scenario for them. If we see Chris Paul and Devin Booker emerge as the best backcourt in the NBA, and DeAndre Ayton takes marked steps forward both on defense and as a scoring big man on the offensive end, we see Cameron Johnson improve, Mikal Bridges' jump shot become more reliable, then that's where this team gets a little dangerous, and they could give a good team, a real run in the first round, and maybe give them a scare. So I like where this roster is right now, and I think that there's potential for them to move forward and continue to become better as the years go by, but I think that there were much better ways to use this pick than Jalen Smith. And just think about if they had Tyrese Halliburton. He would be the perfect third guard for them off the bench, and I thought that if he was on the board for them here, they certainly would have taken him. And passing on him for a guy that a lot of people had a second-round grade on is inexcusable, in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this pick for the Suns. Like I said, not a fan whatsoever. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I think that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all again very soon.